It is still affirmed as they come to the quarter pole. He's holding on to a head lead. Alydar is outside of him and challenging that lead. The two are heads apart, and Alydar's got a lead. Alydar put ahead in front, right in the middle of the stretch. It's Alydar and Affirmed battling back along the inside. We'll test these two to the wire. Affirmed under a left-hand whip. Alydar on the outside driving. Affirmed and Alydar heads apart. Affirmed's got a nose in front as they come onto the wire.
That was Chick Anderson on the call for the last Triple Crown winner for thoroughbred racing. Way back in the disco era, 1978, as Affirmed held off Alydar. He was the third Triple Crown winner in 5 years, but we haven't had one since. American Pharoah is going to try to get it done on Saturday, and we're going to be taking a look at that race. It culminates the All-Stakes Pick 4 on a big Saturday card at Belmont Park. Welcome into our In the Money podcast for KeenelandSelect.com. I'm Tom Leach, along with Jim Goodman, Keeneland's Director of Simulcasting. You hopefully heard our other podcast on the earlier stakes races. For this one, we'll focus on races 8, 9, 10, and 11. The 8th race at Belmont on Saturday is the start of the All-Stakes late Pick 4. There's also a Pick 4 that starts with the 10th, but it's an All-Stakes Pick 4 that begins with a Grade 1 Just a Game. On the turf, fillies and mares 4 and up going a mile. And this is a well-matched group. Got the winner, the Jenny Wiley. In fact, the top two in there. You got the horse that won this race last year, Coffee Click. A lot of classy horses in here. Where did you land, Jim, in the Just a Game?
This is why you look at this day as a mini Breeders' Cup, because this is the kind of race that you look at it and you say, okay, Sendiva, Discreet Mark, Filimbi, Coffee Click, all these horses you're going to get nice prices on, because I don't know who the favorite's going to be. I'm guessing Ball Dancing, the 8th off the Jenny Wiley win, but you can make a case for Tepin, the winner of the Distaff Turf Mile on Churchill on Derby Day, and Filimbi I think is a good price here. But this is a tough one to start to pick 4. I would go very, very deep here with the likes of the ones that I mentioned. If I had to pick one, I would probably settle on the Jenny Wiley winner, Ball Dancing. She was extremely impressive at Keeneland. Won the Jenny Wiley by 2.5 after having a little bit of fighting the jock a little bit on the first turn, and then got it straightened out. It was a yielding turf, so she liked that day. But Ball Dancing would be my pick in here, but it'd be a very lukewarm pick. I would use Tepin, the 9 below her. I would use Filimbi, the 6, and I expect Filimbi to run much better here at Belmont than she did at Keeneland. She wasn't that she didn't finish very well in Jenny Wiley, so she seems to like Belmont. She had a nice race here, her only time on the track last May. So I would put Filimbi in there. Coffee Click certainly has a shot. Even a horse like Jay Wonder for Shug McGahee. So a lot of horses have a shot here, but I would very narrowly give it to Ball Dancing.
I ended up going to Lady Lara on the inside for Bill Mott. Like the post, third start off the layoff. The race 2 back on March the 28th down at Gulfstream was a Grade 1 caliber performance for this horse. I think it was a 97 buyer. Back to that level would put her right in the mix. I'd use her with Ball Dancing and Filimbi and Coffee Click and Discreet Mark and still not be real confident that I had the exacta. But I'm going to try Lady Lara, and I would use all of those horses, as many as you can afford if you're, and maybe more if you're doing the pick 4 on the All-Stakes pick 4. But Lady Lara is going to be my pick in the Just a Game. 9th race is the Grade 1 Met Mile, flat mile for 3-year-olds and up. And I went with Tonalist in here. I thought his 4-year-old debut was sensational. He's 4 for 4 at Belmont Park. Thought at the end of last year he might be the best 3-year-old, and outside of Shared Belief, maybe. I thought he was maybe better than California Chrome. He, I thought, ran well against some little adverse circumstances out in the Breeders' Cup Classic, and I think, with Shared Belief on the sidelines, he could end up being the best 4-year-old. I think Wicked Strong is worth a strong look. I'm not sure that maybe a mile to a mile and a 16th might not end up being his best distance, mile and an eighth max. Honor Code, certainly if you throw out the last race, merits respect for Shug. Kobe's Back was a real impressive winner here at Keeneland, and I think there's a good bit of speed in this race. You got Bayern in here. You got Private Zone. This race is loaded with talent. But I think Toneless might be the best of the bunch. So I'm going to take him to sit off the speed and finish up strong and get the win in the Met Mile. How about you?
I'm going to take Toneless as well, but the fact that you mentioned there's lots of speed in here sets up my exacta play here. I think when you look at Private Zone, the 1, Bay of Plenty, the 2, Wicked Strong's got positional speed, and Bayern, is going to go for the lead. So I believe it sets up very well for a stalker and a closer, and I think Toneless, 4-for-4 at Belmont, and off that Westchester win just looks like he's gold in here. But I'm going to play Honor Code with him, hoping that the speed just stops. And Honor Code had no shot against Botanico at Churchill. It was a speed favoring track in the Ali Sheba. He got off to a bad start and never ran a step. And he was 9-5 that day. I didn't like him that day because there wasn't that much speed in there to test Botanico. There's a lot of speed in here, and I think Honor Code gets the perfect setup. And I'm going to do a fairly substantial exacta box, not play the trifecta here. Just think Toneless and Honor Code are going to run 1-2, and that speed is going to kill each other. And Honor Code is going to finish up big here and might just nip Toneless at the wire. But I'm going to take Toneless for a win bet.
Yeah, and you're going to get a nice price, I think, on Honor Code, too, off that performance last time. 10th race, another difficult handicapping challenge for me anyway. The Grade 1 Manhattan, 4-year-olds and up on the turf at 1.25 miles. Where did you land here?
One of my favorite bourbons in the world, the Knob Creek Manhattan. You got to use that name in there when you talk about the Manhattan. The sponsor is that's an awfully smooth bourbon, so I like this race already. Finnegan's Wake is probably my pick in here. Donegal Racing, they were so happy when he won the Turf Classic at Churchill on Derby Day, and I thought he beat a really good field there, including Jack Milton and Sky Captain. And I'm going to narrowly go with him here, but I feel this way about this race. I think a lot of horses can win. Finnegan's Wake, Twilight Eclipse is possibly going to be the favorite off the Man of War win at Belmont. But that was the first time he'd won at Belmont. He just couldn't get over the top before, and he kept running second the main sequence last year, which is no shame, obviously. Finnegan's Wake seems to be going the right way, and it's really tough down the stretch. I can make a case for Big Blue Kitten for Chad Brown. I can make a case for War Dancer for Bill Mott. I can make a case for your old favorite horse, Slumber, who disappointed at Churchill. I thought he had a real shot that day. And Biz the Nurse, maybe a little bit. General A-Rod tries something different, which is interesting. He's never been on the turf before. I think this is an awfully tough spot to try it. But Finnegan's Wake would be my key on top, the 3 on top with Twilight Eclipse, the 2, War Dancer, the 4, Slumber, the 7, maybe Big Blue Kitten, the 5 with all.
I'm going to take one you didn't mention, which is an invader from overseas, Magic Artist. And the reason that he's been running a Grade 1 company in Italy, and before that was in Germany, and seen in the Breeders' Cup, those horses coming off of that particular circuit are usually pretty tough, just in terms of being hickory tough kind of horses. And if I didn't go that route, I don't know where I would go. So that horse is kind of the X factor and probably a nice price. Definitely would want to spread out here. But I'm going to take Magic Artist, but then I'll probably do an exacta box, and I would use War Dancer, who was very nearly going to be my pick. Big improvement last time in the second start for Mott, and there's not a whole lot of speed in this race. Big Blue Kitten I like. Legendary is a horse that's perfect at this distance, perfect at this track. So he's intriguing, and several others that you mentioned. So I'm going to take all 4 of those in my pick 4 ticket and make Magic Artist my pick to win the Manhattan. The 11th race is the Belmont, 1.5 miles, and it's once around at Belmont Park. And we've got American Pharoah trying to do something that hasn't been done since affirmed in 1978. Jim, how do you see the Belmont?
My first tendency is not to pick him because I've felt that way with Big Brown and with California Chrome, and even I'll have another before you scratch it. We all get our hopes up and we all think this horse is unbeatable. I don't think he's unbeatable, but I definitely think he's the best horse. I picked against him the first 2 legs of Triple Crown. I was almost right the first time with Firing Line. I really liked Firing Line, and he ran big in the Derby. Didn't know that the skies would open up and 5 inches of rain would fall, which make American Pharoah a 1-20 shot, the way it turned out in the previous, because he absolutely loved the slop, and my horse didn't and got off to a bad start. I can't bet firing line here because he's skipping the race. So I'm going to stick with American Pharoah. I certainly hope he gets a good trip. There's no reason he can't from the 5-hole. There's not a lot of early speed in here. If you look at who's going to go with him, maybe Made from Lucky, there's just not much speed in here besides American Pharoah. Materiality is the wild card. If you take a look at the Derby, he almost went to his knees at the start and just never got in the race until the end, got beat by 7 3/4. And a lot of people are going to pick Materiality as the horse that could beat American Pharoah if you draw lines to the Derby. And I would agree with that if you look only at the Florida Derby 110 buyer. But the Florida races turned out to be not that tough. Upstart didn't do very well. Stanford, the other horses that came out of the Florida races have not performed that well. So I'm not sure what Materiality beat that day at the Florida Derby on that 110 buyer. So I'm a little hesitant to take him, and I certainly don't think he's a better horse than American Pharoah. Frosted is the wise guy horse. He won the Wood, then had a tough trip in the Derby, so everybody says that he can come back. In reality, he lost the Derby to American Pharoah. He got beat by a better horse on a tough track. Did American Pharoah get a better trip? Absolutely he did. Can you make a case for Frosted in this race? Absolutely you can, because weird things happen in the Belmont. So I would take Frosted as having a shot. Made from Lucky could get up for second, but has a trip over the track with a win in the Peter Pan. But in reality, he's got to make up a whole lot of ground on American Pharoah. American Pharoah beating him by 9 in the Arkansas Derby. So I can't see him beating him, but strange things happen in the Belmont. I still remember Smarty Jones coming down the stretch and thinking, where is that horse coming from that's coming up the rail? And it was Birdstone. So I hope the 1.5 miles is not too much for him. I hope he gets the trip, and I hope we have another Triple Crown winner. So that's what I'm thinking is going to happen.
Yeah, amen to all that. I think strategically it's interesting. I would assume he goes to the front and Materiality just goes right with him. And if I were Espinoza, I think I'd be, if I leaned one way or the other, I'd be more inclined to try to run them off their shoes than to slow it up and try to go 50 or something, because all that does is just bring the closers in. I think if you spread the field out a little bit with American Pharoah's speed, I don't think the closers are good enough to come and get him. And so then that narrows down to just a small number of challengers. And Materiality is out of a speedy mare, as is American Pharoah, but it's not like the pedigree's any better for Materiality to get 1.5 miles. I just don't think Frosted is as good. Maybe the 5 weeks off versus the American Pharoah running in the Preakness will make the difference, but I don't think so. I think he just is a second or third kind of horse. So I will pick American Pharoah as well. And like you, I didn't pick him in the first 2 legs. But Made from Lucky may end up being my kind of horse to key around with. I think Materiality is, if American Pharoah doesn't win it, I think Materiality probably would be my next likely pick, because that 110 buyer, maybe it is accurate and he is just good enough, as good as American Pharoah on his best day. I tend to think not, but I would use both of those and then kind of key on Made from Lucky for second and third, because other than the 2 races against American Pharoah, if you draw a line through those, he's won 3 straight. He's won at Belmont. He's going to be not on the lead, but not too far off of it. So I don't know that there'll be a whole lot of people that want to do a whole lot of passing in the stretch of this race. And he may already be up there around second or third. So Made from Lucky, I think, is going to be my key horse, and I think I'll key him in second and third slot of tries underneath American Pharoah and Materiality. And but American Pharoah, I'm hoping he gets it done and gets us that long-awaited Triple Crown winner. And from all the indications, boy, I like the fact that Baffert's got him, and Baffert really doesn't baby his horses. And I saw the workout Monday, and I heard Chris McCarron talking about this, that he actually looked like he almost worked a mile because he galloped out so strong. So certainly looks like he's going to be fit enough to have a good run at it, and his early speed. And the 2-year-old foundation, I think, is helpful. This is the first time we've had a 2-year-old champion even run in the Belmont since Easy Goer in 1988. So I think that might be what ultimately helps get him home, is that foundation that he's got. Hopefully we'll see American Pharoah win the Belmont Stakes and get us that Triple Crown winner. Want to remind everybody about the big day that Keeneland has planned. A lot of special contests and events built around the Belmont Stakes and American Pharoah's attempt to capture the Triple Crown. You'll have a chance to win souvenir programs and tickets from New York, a $500 bet on the Belmont. You have a chance to win that. It's all part of the festivities for Belmont Day at Keeneland. You can check Keeneland.com to get more details. For Jim Goodman, I'm Tom Leach. This is the In the Money Podcast for KeenelandSelect.com.